Good afternoon, Michigan. Welcome to our May Fireside Chat. Today, I'd like to discuss a few things, but I'd also like to do a bit of a project that has been, well, until recently it wasn't necessarily a project I had planned on doing, but it is now. I'm a dishwasher by trade. Not really by trade, it's what I do for a living though. And my apron here was provided to me when I started working there. But unfortunately, one of the straps has come off. Now this has happened before, a few weeks ago, and I did fix it then, but it fell off again. So I figured this is a good time as any to repair it, a little stronger this time. So if you want to follow along at home, go find some item around your house that needs mending, and we'll get to work on some amateur tailoring. So we're going to start by taking the old strap here, and it was pretty hastily cut up because of a slight mistake I made earlier in the week, but we won't worry about that now. So we're just going to clean up the ends of it where it came off. Much better. We're going to take our needle and thread. Now right here I got some button thread, very strong, of course, for holding on buttons. An old needle, it was my mom's, until I borrowed it. And we're just going to get a little bit of a string going. We're going to thread it through now to get the end nice and pointy. Threading it through the needle can be a bit difficult. It's good to get a good grip high up on it, and then almost. There we go. Pull that through a little ways. Once you got it on there, tie a little knot. It's a bit finicky working with things so small. I got kind of big hands. Tie yourself a knot. Carefully tie yourself a knot. And you've threaded your needle. And if you'd like, you can cut this little excess off, but just so it doesn't get tangled up with everything, just make sure you don't cut it too close and you'll lose your knot. So let's just cut it down. We got about 1 centimeter left. Next, we're going to want to move our string out of the way for a moment. So we'll set that aside. We want to take our two items. In this case, we have the strap that needs to be sewn back on. Now, it's very important. Make sure if you're sewing things together, you're 100% certain about where you're sewing things. You don't want to make the same mistake I did a few weeks ago, and I sewed this onto the wrong spot, caused me a hole, and didn't even notice until I got into work. Whole bunch of trouble. But what we're going to do is I'm going to take this, and it's going to end up a little shorter, my strap, because of course I have to use a lot of material to sew it back on. But I'm going to make sure I get a big chunk of it overlapping the apron. That way I have a nice area to sew on. And once we've got that in place, we're going to want to start with our thread here. This is just ordinary this is just button thread. I bought it at Meijer for about $3. Really easy. Needles not too expensive. And sewing is an extremely valuable skill. I regret to say it has been a long while since I've really sewn anything. This apron here is my first sewing project in a while. Of course, all my sewing projects really boil down to patching holes in my socks. You can imagine how well that goes. So I'm gonna take my thread and set it up here. We're just gonna start threading it through. If we need, we can pull a little more out. Just make sure let's make sure we got plenty of thread to work with. Some people will just cut it. They'll get a section of thread they think is long enough, and they'll just cut it there and tie a knot at the end and just work with that until they run out. And that's all right, but as it stands, I can't say I'm very good at guesstimating how much thread I'll need. So I find it's nice to just leave it attached to the spool. It can be a little annoying to work with, but it means you'll have a lot more flexibility. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to start by laying down a pretty simple pattern here. I'm going to go from across, and then we're going to, whoop. Sometimes that happens. Your knot will come undone. It happens more often when you're working with thread that doesn't match the size of your needle. But that's perfectly all right. We're just going to rethread. You know, it used to be a pretty common thing in America that whenever you had a broken item, you just fix it. Nowadays, it's becoming a bit of a rarity to see. I mean, I've always spent my time, whenever I can, I try to fix things. I fix my computer, my mug breaks, I glue the handle back on. Even now, I'm fixing this strap that came off of my apron. It looks like it's getting frayed on the end of this thread, so we're just going to snip it down. I'm fixing the strap that, if you're more responsible than me, you might consider a thimble. That way your fingers don't end up quite so perforated by the time you're done sewing. But I like to live life a little bit dangerously. So if we get a nice point there, rethread it. It's being a little difficult, but nowadays it's far more common that if something you own breaks, you just haul it back to the store, get a refund, and buy a new one. Or maybe you just throw it in the garbage, don't even buy another. That's kind of unfortunate that we've lost such a valuable skill, such as simple household repairs. Man, this is being a real tough one. I might have to trim a little bit more off because the wind's getting frayed again. Alright, third time's the charm. Almost had it. There. But it's important to be self-reliant. Not so much so that you ignore all others when looking for support, but it's important to be able to do things for yourself, including fix things around the house. Our education system is certainly failing in that regard, I would say. A lot of practical skills are evaporating because parents don't know them and teachers aren't teaching them. Now my mom taught me how to sew a long while ago. My dad taught me how to fix cars. I'm still not very good at it, but life's an endless journey of learning. Nope, still not one to thread. Come on. And there we go. Finally, we rethread our needle and I can stop my rambling and get back to work. But our modern education system, for all the good it has done, and it has done a lot of good, don't get me wrong. I mean, there's so much important things that schools teach that in the past just wouldn't have even been thought about. I'm going to double knot this just to be extra secure so I don't lose it again and have to go through all that trouble of rethreading it. Although, knowing my luck, it'll probably still happen. Well, let's not try and jinx it. In any event, our modern education system is working very well in certain regards, but in others, that should work. But in others, like the teaching of practical skills like sewing or fixing cars or anything, there's a lot less opportunities to learn, or a lot fewer opportunities to learn. We're going to do a bit of a crisscross pattern, be a little stronger. There's a lot fewer opportunities to learn these skills. But that's why but sometimes you got to teach yourself. We can't expect to learn everything. We can't expect to be taught everything. Some things you just got to figure out on your own, and a lot of things you got to figure out by doing. I mean, I've only ever sewn a few things, and like I said before, it was mostly socks that had holes torn in them. But this is a whole new thing. I'm mending two pieces, I'm sticking two pieces of fabric back together. It takes a little more skill and a little more ingenuity. And of course, you're not going to get it right the first time, obviously. My first repair didn't end so well. But you just got to keep trying. If at first you don't succeed, try again. And that's what I'm here to do. I'm going to keep working at it. One of these days, maybe eventually, I'll make a repair that does work. Holds together well, looks somewhat appealing. And then I'll be able to get years of service out of this apron. Of course, I could have just gone on eBay or Amazon or whatever, bought myself a brand new one, and that might have lasted me a while. But how long can we expect it to last before this exact same problem happens? You know, this is a manufacturer's fault. They built a product that doesn't work very well. I bought this apron with the expectation, well, I didn't buy this apron, it was given to me by my boss with the expectation that it would be able to hold up to the daily stress of being dishwashing. And it wasn't able to do that. But this repair is much stronger. Oops, there goes my needle. Try not to do that unless you want a perforated foot as well as a perforated hand. As well as, in addition to your perforated fingers. I've stepped on a sewing needle before. It's not a fun experience. They're really hard to spot, so try not to drop yours and forget about them. But the expectation was that this was a product and it did not live up to this was a durable product and it does not live up to expectations. So I'm fixing it. And this repair will be stronger, hopefully stronger, than the original product itself. And if that rings true, I'll get more service out of this than I would with a brand new apron, because I've made a repair stronger than a new product. And that's one of the benefits of repairs. Repairs will extend the life of items far further and will reduce your expenses quite a bit. I mean, they're economical, but our consumerist, this was a little tough. Our consumerist economy and lifestyle has essentially made repairing things obsolete. All we want to do is buy the newest thing. You know, even besides repairs, we come across cases where people just want to buy something because it's new. They're old things old. They're old things old. It might work like new, might be perfectly suitable for what they need, but it's not new. I mean, do people buy new cars? I've never known anyone in my family to buy a new car. My car, it was donated to me by my dad. I had to work for it. We had to put a whole new engine and transmission in it. It's got 300,000 miles. Runs perfectly fine. Because that's the point. Is your item you don't need the newest things when the old ones will work perfectly fine. You just can't expect the old ones to work fine without putting a little work into it. But you put a little work into it, and the rewards speak for themselves. And that's what we're doing right now. We put a little work into it. We'll be able to use this apron another 5-10 years. It's made of fairly durable enough material, and with a nice, well-made repair, or at least well-made enough repair, it'll be just as good as new, if not better. So that's why I kind of wanted to do this as sort of a work alongside me sort of thing. You know, that way, if you have a project out there, like I said, maybe you got some pants that are worn through at the knee. you can patch them. If you've got a sock, it's got a hole in it. Socks are relatively inexpensive, but even if you were going to buy new socks, this is still good. It's still good practice for threading a needle or tying the knots. It never hurts to do a little bit of extra. Now, see what I'm talking about with these needles? They're very dangerous. It never hurts to do just a little bit extra to sharpen your skills or hone your skills a little. So if you are watching this at home and haven't been following along yet, but you can, go grab the old sewing kit. Guarantee you, you know somebody who has a sewing kit. And if not, they're not expensive. Needle costs you a couple bucks. Appears I've made a slight miscalculation with my thread here. I'm just trying to trace the origin of it because there's a bit of a loop underneath of it. That'll definitely impact its strength. So I'm trying to figure out where this loop ends up so that I can get it out. That's what I'm saying. Yeah. Now I'm creating more problems for myself. Oh, there it is. Just ideally, we should be able to just pull, fix. Okay. We'll continue tracing the loop. In the meantime, we've just made that one worse. Like I said, learning experiences. All about learning. Sometimes you just gotta bumble through. Eventually, you'll figure it out, and it'll all work out in the end. It ain't the end of the world if we got a little bit of a thing. You know what? I think I'm just not gonna worry about it too badly, because it's not that big of a deal. We can work past it. So for these two little loops that have developed, I'm just gonna move past them. Not worry about it too badly, and then we'll tie them down later, and they'll be just as fun, and they'll be nice and strong. Won't impact our work too badly. That's important. That's definitely something whoops. We gotta make sure we've not tangled our threads here, because if we do that, that's gonna be really So we're just gonna have to be careful, untangle them. Leave. There we go. Okay. That's something I'm trying to work on, is not sweating the little problems that pop up in life too much. It's important to just kind of control what you can control and try not to worry too badly about what you can't. Not that you shouldn't worry about things out of your control, or that you shouldn't care about them. There's lots of stuff outside our direct control that we should definitely be worried about. What I'm trying to say is that you should, instead of worrying so badly about the effects, worry more about what you can do to fix it, what you can do to solve it. And sometimes your solutions won't be perfect. And sometimes it's past the point of a direct solution, like our loop here. This thread's gotten a little tangled up, untied. Now we could go back and try to unfurl all the thread and tighten down this loop. But that would undo a lot of our work. It'd be really difficult and it'd be really difficult and undo a lot of work we've already made, a lot of progress we've already made. It might not even be possible, not without restarting completely, and that's just not feasible in a lot of cases. So what we do instead is we find an alternative solution. We find a way to work around the loop. Here, I've put a little bit of thread to hold it down. So it's not a perfect solution. If you look around for perfect solutions to all your problems, you'll be looking for an awful long time. Not every problem has a solution. Well, every problem has many solutions. Some have many solutions. But if you're looking for the perfect solution, you may never find it. And in the time you've taken to find the perfect solution to one of your problems, another will just pop right back up. So don't worry about finding a perfect solution to every problem. Worry about solving the problems that pop up now. Don't be too hasty about it. Don't rush in, do the first thing you can think of that might solve a problem, and worry about the fallout later. That's no way to handle your situation. That's no way to handle things either. But what you can do is you can take some time, think about it, all the different things that could be done, and think, okay, if I do this, it'll solve things. In the long term, another problem. In the long term, we might have to readdress it. But for now, things will work. Things will work. I can continue along, and I can work towards fixing the other things that pop up. And in the future, such as in the future if my repairs here didn't work, I'll come back, I'll know more, and I'll be able to implement a better solution, one that maybe will last even longer. So even if you implement a fix and it comes back later and it doesn't work, and it comes back later having failed, in the time since then, you've gained enough. You've hopefully gained enough knowledge that you can come up with a way to fix it even better, perhaps permanently. That's what we should strive for. And that's why it's so important to develop not only knowledge of the world, but also the ability to learn, the ability to gain more knowledge. All right. That's looking pretty solid. We'll go through, tie a few knots to hold everything and hold all our threads in place, and then we'll wrap things up. Okay, this knot's not going to be the most sturdy because it's tied to our loop-de-loop that was causing us so much trouble, but it's a little something, and every bit helps. Remember, every bit helps. There's nothing, if you set your mind to it, you see a problem and you want to solve it. There's no amount that you can do that is not important. Everything you do will be important. I mean, that applies to politics and life. You see, think about it if in the examples we brought up before, repairs around the house. If you go to notice a drawer in your house, in your kitchen is sticking, you could put some WD-40 on it. It's not a great solution. It might not really address why it's sticking, but in the short term, it'll have done something. It won't stick so bad. Maybe that was the entire problem. Maybe it was just little maybe you just need a little bit of axle grease. Maybe in the future it'll come back, and you'll apply more WD-40. You'll have done that same little bit again, and it'll fix it again. The point I'm trying to make is that there's never too little that you can do. Never worry that your voice or your actions will not have a big enough impact. I mean, that's something I worry about a lot. That's part of the reason I'm in politics, right? I'm here because I feel that if I were at any other level, I wouldn't be making a large enough impact. And I used to think that all the time. I used to be a bit cynical about things, and a lot of people still are. I mean, you ever talk to people, most people, I know at least, don't vote. And they don't vote because they don't believe that their vote will matter. Either because they don't support any of the candidates, or because the candidates they do support, they don't think will win, and so they think their vote is completely pointless. And they're wrong. Every vote counts. That's completely accurate. Every vote counts. And that mindset that votes do not count is horribly insidious. It erodes our democracy to believe that your vote does not count. And there are people out there who want for you to believe your vote does not count because it greatly benefits them. They survive off of a small group of individuals who will gladly support them. And if a large enough group of opposition exists, they will lose their in-group majority, and thus they will lose power. We need not just to get out there and vote, but to be informed voters, educated voters, voters who know what we want and are willing to vote are willing to look past things like party or even in some cases personal opinion, to understand that we have a common cause, a common goal that we wish to see, and to execute that goal. So as we wrap up both our discussion and our tailoring job, which I would say is not necessarily my finest work, but it'll do what it needs to. So as we wrap things up, I'd like to say thank you very much to those who stuck with me for this whole time. I know I can get a little long-winded when I start talking. I know a lot of it might not seem to make very much sense. If you'd like some more concise opinions of mine, I'd suggest you go over to I'd suggest paying a visit to my Facebook page, which you'll find in the description. There, I don't have quite so much time as on YouTube to ramble on about whatever occupies my mind. So I try to make things a little more brief over there. And I'd just like to tell you that even if you can't vote for me, I'm not here just to tell you to vote for me or get lost. I'm here to change your mind. I'm here to make you think. And I'd like to tell you that if you live in America, you live in Germany, you live in Europe, the United Kingdom, Croatia, I don't care. Wherever you live, I want to tell you to get out there, vote, or spread the word about something you care about. Do what you can to to build a better world. And maybe, like our patch here, it's messy, and not very efficient. But even if it's messy, inefficient, and a little ugly, it still gets the job done. We've extended the life of this apron, hopefully by years, maybe by weeks. But now I can go back to work. I've got my uniform nice and patched up, and I've fixed those faults which I've seen in the world, even if the fix is not perfect. So get out there, go vote, go talk to people, go encourage the change. Thank you very much for watching. Remember to vote James Coney 2024.